So happy Mother's Day again. I know that that word can mean lots of things to lots of people, but I just want you to know that you all have a mother within you, and that is that beautiful, amazing, creative spirit, that beautiful, nurturing womb of all creation that we see out in nature is all, it's us. That's who we are. And I love that song you sang at the beginning that really expressed that. So happy Mother's Day to even the men, because you have that too. So happy Mother's Day. So, yeah, it's been a really interesting week. I use the word interesting carefully. There's a lot going on in the world. There's a lot going on in my life. There's a lot going on in all our lives. There's a lot going on. And yeah, so I want to just start with a little story I read that I found very profound. It was in this book I'm reading called Radical Acceptance that is a really interesting, beautiful book. But she tells a story about a white tiger. You might have heard this story before, but his name or her name was Mohini, and she lived in the Washington, D.C. Zoo, and she was in a 12 by 12 cage and spent a lot of her time just pacing back and forth in that 12 by 12 cage. You can imagine a beautiful white tiger, right? I know, well, the zoo got together and they built her, I think it was 12 acres of land that she could roam on in the zoo. I'm not sure the exact acreage, but it was a lot that she could roam on. They built it all up with the water and the whole thing, and they put her there. And she found a corner and continued to walk 12 by 12 for the rest of her life. They could not entice her out into this open space. And the reason this woman told the story in the book, I know, right? It's like heart-wrenching. The reason she told the story in the book was to the metaphorical reasons for it, how we have so much. We have so much power, so much love within us, and sometimes we cut ourselves off and we don't realize it, that we have everything we could ever require or want or tap into. It's all there for us. And we can, and she said, and sometimes we continue to walk that 12 by 12 cage that we've put ourselves in. And then all the time not knowing that that whole expansive universe is out there for us. So it's a journey to come to the realization that we're unlimited like that. And we have to have the spiritual tools to be able to work on it. It's a practice because everything on the outside world tells us something opposite from that. And when trials and tribulations and challenges come up, then it tells us even more that, you know, it's not true, but it is true. And I know that it's true. It's true. It's definitely true. And the other night I was tossing and turning in my 12 by 12 cage that I had created for myself because of a lot of things that were going on in my life. And I was getting nervous about it and scared. And my mind just went crazy, like it was just going crazy. And so I couldn't control my mind. I just couldn't. It was just going to all the worst scenarios of everything. And so all of a sudden, this voice within me said, get out of that bed, go downstairs and meditate. And it was about 3:30 in the morning, going on 4. So I got up, I went downstairs, and I started to meditate. And I was like in there for about an hour. And I did a treatment, a spiritual mind treatment, which is a definite way of getting your mind. Meditation's great, but when you spiritually mind treat, you really are focusing your mind in a specific direction for whatever that is. And I needed it right then. So I did my spiritual mind treatment, and then this voice said, it thinks me, it breathes me, it lives me. And it repeated it over and over and over again, and I got it. I got that there was a power within me. I call it because it is neither feminine or masculine. It is both. It is what we consider God. It is what we consider our source, our divine power. And what I realized in that moment is that I had to turn everything over to that. Now, I know this, and I say it to myself, and I go, I know this. But in that moment, because everything seemed so overwhelming that I was taking care of things that really weren't my business to take care of, that I was forgetting who I was. So what I remember that it thinks me, it breathes me, it lives me, I have something to turn it over to. Some people need an outside source to turn it over to. I need to know that it's the inside source within me that's going to take care of everything, and it's going to guide me. It's going to direct me. It's going to allow me to know what is mine to do and what isn't mine to do. It's going to, when I turn over to that, then I have a clear sense of what my next step is, what I need to let go of, what's mine to do and what's the universe's to do, those kind of things. Whereas if I'm like letting everything from on the outside relegate to me, how I'm supposed to be feeling and what, what I need to do because, I got to take care of that and that and that and that, and that person's not doing that, and blah, 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 blah. What about my kids? What about this? What about that? Then I have no power. I have no power. I'm just this person trying to figure things out in the world of form, and there's no answers in the world of form. And I know I've told this story before, but I'm going to tell it again because I think it's just really important story. And I don't know where I heard it. I know it came from Greg Braden somewhere, but Greg Braden, the author and New Thought leader. It was about an elder, a Native American elder, had said to him, told him a story because there was this petroglyphs, or what do you call them, the drawings on cave walls, right? And it was an ancient civilization, and the elder explained it to him, the elder, Native American elder. He said, there were two groups of people. One group had no heads on, and they were walking on a cliff, and they just fell into oblivion. The other group had their heads on, and they were walking, and they were just walking up, and they were fine. And he told the story for these times, because the people with no heads didn't know who they were. That was the metaphor. They didn't have their heads chopped off. The metaphor was they didn't know who they were. I mean, I don't know, maybe they did, but I don't think so. I don't think they would have been walking with no heads. It was definitely a metaphor. And they were going off, falling off into the cliff. And I think, like, in my life right now, I don't want to fall in that cliff. And it's very easy to fall into that cliff because there's a lot of energy that's going around. There's a lot of stuff happening. There's a lot of stuff that's pulling our attention to say this is real and that's real and that's real. And that's what causes us to fall off the cliff, because we don't ground ourselves and we don't say, this is who I am. We don't turn to that inner part of ourselves that will reassure us and will carry us through. And no other person can do that for us. And I can't do it for you, and you can't do it for me. And that's when we get into trouble, because we try to do it for other people too, and we can't. We can't. I listen to people a lot, even in my own family, and I go, wow, if I could just tell them this and make them see this, but I can't. And so we have to just take care of ourselves and be examples to everybody else of what is possible. Like I say that, like, we're just messengers of what is possible, examples and messengers of what is possible if we live the principles, and the principles being that God, source, is all there is. It's right here. And that we are powerful. Our minds are powerful. How we use them affects the world. It affects not just our life. It affects the whole world, how we think and how we act and what we do. It affects the planet. And so, it's Mother's Day, but I love my mother. She's gone now. I love her. And I love all mothers. And, what they go through for their kids. I see my daughters, what they do for their, children, and I'm like, that's so beautiful. But we got to take care of ourselves too, right? You agree with me? Yes. All right. So my message for you today is, what does that mean to take care of myself? Because, like, sometimes people are like, oh, I'll go get a massage, or, and that's good too. We like massages, right? We like to go out and have a nice dinner out or whatever, all those things that, we get a pedicure or whatever. Those are beautiful things. But really taking care of ourselves is taking care of ourselves. Like, what does that mean? We got to sit with ourselves, and we got to see where we're falling off the cliff and get ourselves back to being aligned with what's really true about us, which is that we are God, we are powerful, we are light, we are love, we are light beings, we are important in this world, we have purpose. No matter what we think, there's a purpose or we wouldn't be here, and that purpose is to live this light and live this love and live this nurturing spirit that we are. So, yeah, take care of yourself. So it's Mother's Day. I don't care if you're a man, a woman, or a child, or whatever you are. Do something for yourself that lights that part of your here. That's good, because you showed up for yourself, because this is a place of nourishment. At least that's what I know it is. So, yeah, show up for yourself and do what makes you happy. Joy is like so important, to do things that make you joyful, not just happy superficially, but joyful. I hear people doing things that are making them joyful. Sue Wood, I'll pick you out. And she's happy, you know. Isha back there, I know that they are, and I'm not meaning to point people out, but I am meaning to point people out, because they're great examples. They're great examples of following their inner wisdom and doing what makes them joyful. So, yeah, and it doesn't have to be a trip to Africa or Italy like they're doing, but it can be some little thing that you're doing for yourself that makes that joy just like permeate your being and want you to give and be in service. So, happy Mother's Day. Namaste. Namaste.